Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm Jessi Nealand, and today I'm going to be answering a question for my Q&A series, Jessi's Mailbag. So just a quick reminder, if you want me to answer your question, go to the submission link in my caption and submit a topic that you want me to talk about, ask a question, be as specific as you possibly can. I love to hear from you. I want to know what you want to hear about. Now, today's question is basically, why do we do that? Which is a question that I get asked a lot about a variety of different body image issues and things that people sort of beat themselves up for. They're like, why am I like this? Honestly, like, why do I care so much how I look? Why do I want to make other people happy? Why am I so afraid of judgment and criticism? Like, people do this all the time. But the question specifically of why do we do that, around why do we blame our bodies when bad things happen to us, I think is really important. So something that happens a lot is people will have some kind of bullying, criticism, harassment, insult, judgment, whatever it is. Somebody else outside of them treats them badly because of the shape or size of their body. Sometimes this happens in childhood. Sometimes this happens in our formative years, like as teenagers. Sometimes this happens in adulthood, and it's always bad. It just sucks. And what happens a lot of times is people will turn that inward towards themselves. They don't say to themselves, wow, that guy was a complete asshole. I don't think I should date them anymore. They say, oh my God, my thighs are too jiggly and he's not going to be attracted to me anymore. And now I need to lose weight. Otherwise, I might lose him. Right? So like we take this negative experience that someone else gave us because they did something wrong. They had bad behavior, right? They were a jerk, basically. We take that negative jerk energy and we hold it and we're like, yeah, I guess you're right. I am the problem. My body is the problem. And then we just aim it at ourselves. So understandably, it's really difficult to see yourself through a body neutral lens when you're like, well, I'm not neutral. Like, my body isn't neutral. My body is bad, and it's the source of all my problems, and also it makes people hate me or harass me, So the issue is, why do we do that? Why do we turn it inward? And the answer, depending on when it happened, of course, there's so many different ways this can look, so many different reasons that we can do this. But the answer, if you were young, is that it actually restores a sort of agency and power in order to make sense of the universe and have a solid understanding of, like, I live in a place that makes sense as a child, or I live in a place where I have some amount of power or agency as a child, which you really kind of don't. It's a perfect solution to blame yourself when other people hurt you. Why? Because let's say somebody neglects you, abuses you, something bad happens, right? And you're like, oh my God, why would this happen? Why would they do that? And as a child, if you blame them, then you have to reckon with the fact that you live in an unjust world, a chaotic world where bad things happen to good people for no reason. Anything could happen. It's terrifying. Honestly, we're not prepared to handle that. Particularly not when we're young, but maybe ever, it's so unpleasant of a thought. It's so, it makes us feel so out of control and so hopeless and helpless. Like, what can I do? Why wouldn't it just happen again tomorrow and forever? Like, it's horrible. So we blame ourselves, because by blaming ourselves and our bodies, we are able to keep an understanding of the universe that makes sense. We're able to be like, well, I guess things happen for a reason, and the reason is that I suck. Or, well, since it was my fault and I deserved it, then I'm able to preserve this idea that the world makes sense and is sort of just and fair, which is such a better place to live in our head. So it makes sense why we would do that. And then also in terms of agency and power, like, if it's my fault, if the problem is that I was fat and that's why I got body shamed, well, then I can just lose weight. Like, I also have the solution. So there's a certain amount of, like, self-determination and empowerment that comes along with blaming yourself. Now, granted, it's super disempowering too, right? Like, it sucks. It'll ruin your life. Body image issues are horrible. But at the point that it developed, it was there to solve a problem. And that problem might have been, I cannot deal with a universe that is completely out of control where bad things happen for no reason. And the problem might have been that you wanted to feel empowered. You wanted to have some control over the hurt that was happening to you. And so you bought in your own mind to a fantasy in which you were the problem so you can be the solution. Because if just other people are just doing bad stuff, you can't solve that. That's not up to you to solve, right? So that sucks. It's a really out of control feeling. Whereas if your body was the problem, you can sort of solve that, or you can allegedly solve that, you know? So those are some of the big reasons that we do this. It makes sense. And I think it's really important that we don't pathologize this. I think it's really important that we don't allow ourselves to feel bad or shamed over why we developed body image issues. We did it for good reasons, my friends. Like, we absolutely turned on ourselves out of self-preservation. I realize that doesn't necessarily make sense on the surface, but once you go digging into it like this, you're like, oh, yeah, that was for a good reason. I know for me, like, I could not cope and tolerate living in a world where I was just going to be like sexualized as a kid because I developed early and like just all of a sudden had all this unwanted attention and harassment, right? Like I couldn't cope with that world. So I made it my fault. I made it an issue of my body. And I basically spent, over a decade trying to change my body so that it wouldn't happen. But it still happened. It doesn't even make sense, right? It's not necessarily logical, but it is real and it is understandable and it makes sense. So this is the answer to why am I like this or why am I doing this? A lot of times, if you go digging into why it formed, what problem was it solving for you, the answer will be there. And I highly recommend doing this work because that allows you to have compassion for yourself. And when you have compassion for yourself, it's a lot easier to stop fighting yourself. Like, it's you, your brain and your body are all on the same team, man. It's not actually an issue of warring with yourself, like me versus my brain. That's how a lot of people think of body image issues, but actually your brain is trying to protect you by blaming your body. So hopefully this brings you some ease, some peace, and compassion. If you are curious and you're not sure what on earth your body image issues could possibly have to do to serve you, feel free to leave me a comment or reach out using my contact form on my website, jessinealon.com, because this is the kind of work that I do, right? Like, this is the kind of work I do with clients, and I'd be happy to help you figure that out, because I think it's a really, really crucial piece of the body neutrality process, is knowing why this stuff developed, why it's happening. So yeah, that's everything for today. I'm so happy that you are here to watch. If this was helpful to you, please go and like, subscribe, turn on notifications, leave me a comment. If you really want to support my free work, I put out weekly videos, and you can go over to my Patreon. Either go to my Linktree and Instagram, or just type in Patreon Jessi Nealand and you'll find it. I love making free content for you all, and I would be super happy if you wanted to support me in doing that. That's it. Thank you for being here, and I'll catch you next time.